Okay. Okay, Tiffany, you need to know how do you know when to use the formula or when you just multiply? Okay, you're going to have to be more specific. Are you talking about when to find slope? Like, how do you know how to find slope? Tiffany W., can you hear me? Okay. Tiffany W., can you be more specific? Okay. Okay. Brandon or Tiffany B., y'all have any questions? You got to pull up some example problems that I can work. Kind of looking through the book right now. Okay. Okay, Tiffany B., are you talking about trying to write an equation, like if they give you 2 points? Is that the one you're talking about? Okay. Okay, so I found an example in the book, and it says write an equation using the point slope form. So on your formula sheet, when you go to take the test, the final exam 2, I have a formula sheet in there, and it has on the formula sheet the point slope form. Okay, and that is that y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay. One thing that I said before was this subscript right here. You got to think about that as just being from the point. So I think of this as the x from point 1 and the y from point 1, okay? So if I'm given 2 points, like this one says to write it, and it gives me 2 points, and my points are -3, -1, and 2, 4. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I mean, I know to write an equation, I can take the 2 points and I can plug it all in. I'm still going to have to find the m. And if it wants it in point slope form, most of the questions ask for both. It said to give point slope form, and then it said to give a y-intercept. So to me, the easiest way to do this is to find the slope first. So my first step is going to be to use the slope formula, which is the slope is equal to the y from point 2 minus the y from point 1 over the x from point 2 minus the x from point 1. So all you have to do is go here and identify your point 1 and point 2. I'm going to call this one right here point 1, and then I'll call this one over here point 2. It doesn't really matter how you do that. You can do it either way. I could have flip-flopped it, and it's still the same. So this is going to be my point number 1, point 1, and then this one will be my point number 2, point 2. So when I start pulling to plug into my formula, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting from the right point. Okay, so I need the y from point 2, which is going to be over here 4, so 4 minus the y from point 1, which is a -1, over the x from point 2, which is 2, minus the x from point 1, which is a -3. Okay, now you did have to notice that you've got a negative right here and right here, and we know that a negative makes a positive. So this becomes 4 plus 1 over 2 plus 3, which is 5 over 5, and 5 over 5 is 1. So the slope of this line is equal to 1. Okay, so that means right here, oh, let's go lighter, do this blue. Okay, here's the slope, right? Okay, so look, slope, we just found it. There it is, it's 1. So I'm going to come back to this original equation, which is that y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, and I'm going to start putting the people in. I want you to notice that you have, I wish there was more colors here. Okay, I want you to notice that you've got, let's see, I'll circle it instead, a y right here and an x right there. That's just a normal y and a normal x, okay? Normal y and normal x. But notice right here, here you've got your y from point 1, that's going to be -1, and you've got your and your x from point 1, excuse me, right there, that's going to be -3. So those are the numbers that we're going to put in, and then we know that our m, we've already looked at him, here's our m right here, okay? So I get y minus the y from point 1, which is -1, equals m, which we calculated, it was 1, times x minus the x from point 1, which was -3. So once again, I'm going to have that negative issue right here and right here, and we know that a negative makes a positive. So I rewrite y plus 1 equals 1 times x plus 3. Okay, now this one works out pretty easy because the 1 right here, you're going to distribute it, and I mean it's not really gonna change what's inside that parentheses. It's just going to make the parentheses go away. Most of the time, what's in front of the parentheses is like a 2 or a -6 or something like that. And it's fine. The 1's fine, but it makes it a little bit easier. So I get 1 times x, which is just x, and 1 times 3, which is +3. Okay, so this right here, I've used that point slope form. Now, once again, most of the questions want you to bring it to slope intercept. Okay, slope intercept is y equals, where you want to get the y by itself, and we call that y equals mx plus b. So the only thing that I have to do is get this y right there by itself. That's it. So I do that just by subtracting 1 from both sides, just like a normal equation. So I get y equals x plus 2. So here is the equation of that line, and it's written in slope intercept form. Okay, so what I do first, I had the 2 points that they gave me. I found the slope using the slope formula right here, slope formula, plugged in the y from point 2 and the y from point 1, the x from point 2, the x from point 1, calculated it, I got 1. Then I came back to that point slope form because it really told me it wanted me to use that. And look, I see that this is just a plain y. He has to stay. Okay, this is a plain x. He has to stay because in your final answer you need x and y. And then this is the y from point 1, the x from point 1, and this is the slope you calculated. So then I just plugged everything back in and made it pretty. Okay. Any questions? Whoa, sorry. Okay, I'm going to save that one. No, it's for both. I'm not real sure if there are a lot of these on the test or not, like that one. I don't really, at this time, I can't recall. But no, Tiffany W., this is for either. I mean, you got to know this all for the final exam too, because the final exam is comprehensive. So the final exam is going to have everything on it from day 1. So yes. Okay, Brandon, the grades that if you took test 2 last week, yes. Now, once everybody gets done, the test ends tomorrow. I had to extend it. The testing center was having some issues, but I did call them to talk to them about what it was. While y'all are in here, if you guys are in there in the testing center and you're trying to take the test, and let's say that you're using Google Chrome and you get a blank white screen, it is going to kick you out of the test. But what's happening is that for some reason that browser's not working. So you need to try Firefox. And what they do is they call me and then I have to reset it. Okay. So we had some huge issues on Saturday, and the testing center lady called me several times. And so finally she asked me to change the due date because of all the issues. So I told her that I would. But yeah, Brandon, your grade that's in there is fine. The only thing that is going to possibly happen to your grade is that it may go up, because once I get all the testing papers, once the test deadline ends, I go up there and get the testing papers, and then I go through and to see if you made like a silly mistake, like let's say you put a negative instead of a positive and it counted it wrong, then I don't take off the credit for that. So I have to go back and look at y'all's test and then adjust your scores. So if you notice that your test scores are changing, that's why. Okay, does anybody else, Tiffany W., do you have anything that you want to see from homework for this week? Okay, Tiffany, can you give me a problem? Are you talking about how do we know when to use the formula or when we just multiply? Okay, you're gonna have to help me out here. Are you talking about polynomials? I think you probably are. Can you find a question? Can you pull up your homework and find a question for us? You can screenshot it and send it in that text window, in that chat window. There's no extra credit. Okay, let me see if I can find one, Tiffany. Now I'm understanding, okay? Okay. I'm thinking that this next section you guys are gonna like a lot better. It's not as much algebra. It's, oh no, hang on. Okay. It's not as much algebra, it's a little bit different. Okay, so let me see if I can find a problem that you're doing. Let me try to pull up a homework one. Do you know if you were questioning the 7.1 or 7.2, Tiffany? Because you've already taken the quiz, right? So it's over those two sections. Hey, and did you guys also notice that you're really going to need a calculator that has the factorial notation, the button on there? If you're just using a plain calculator, that's not going to work. You're going to need one that has the little exclamation point. That's the factorial. Okay, so Tiffany, if you look at these, you're unsure what, okay, wait, I get unsure on what to do whether I multiply the numbers or it says or put them in the formula. I'm not making sense, am I? No, it's fine. Okay, most of the time, if it wants you to use the formula, like if you're looking through your homework assignments, it's going to say, you know, use the formula. The other exercises, like, okay, this one is one from 7.2. And the directions say, the problem says, 6 performers are to present their comedy acts on a weekend evening at a comedy club. How many different ways are there to schedule their appearances? So if there's 6 of them, okay, if there's 6 of them, then that's just 6 factorial. So when you put that into your calculator, you would use that button that it looks like an exclamation point, but that's your factorial, and so that would be equal to 720. So it's 6 performers. How many different ways can they schedule their appearances? But then when you get to some of the other ones, it actually tells you that you're going to have to use the formula. Okay, so let me find one like that. Okay, so watch the difference. So, okay, that question. Oh, how are you doing your homework? Are you using, Tiffany, or how did you do your homework without the little exclamation point button? Were you actually doing it out by hand? You know, because 6 factorial means 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Oh, okay. Okay, that's going to be harder. I think that you need to borrow one from somebody. I think if you get just a, Brandon, did you get just a plain scientific one? Yeah, this is in section 7.2. Okay, 7.2. Brandon, did you just get a scientific one and it had the factorial button on it? Oh, you got a nicer one. Okay. Y'all could probably get one for pretty cheap. I bet you can find one for $10, $12. But you will have to have one that has that factorial button on it. And depending on where you go next semester, if you are not on track to do like a STEM, then you're going to take the credit class and you'll need a calculator with those buttons on it. But if you're going to do STEM, I mean, either way, I guess you can use a scientific calculator in either of those classes. I think you can get one at Walmart. I mean, you can go to Best Buy or Office Depot or Office Max, but you just have to find one that has that button on it. You just press the button. Okay, let's go over this one. So I want to make sure that y'all understand, okay? So this question right here, listen to what it said. This question said, how many different ways? How many different ways are there to schedule their appearances? Okay, are there to schedule their appearances? All right. So this is just asking how many ways can these 6 performers schedule their appearances, okay? So then all you had to do is take 6 factorial, and 6 factorial comes out to be 720. Okay, now this is a different question. So I want to see if you guys can figure out what the difference between the 2 questions are. Okay, so this question right here, let me find it. Okay, this one says, suppose that you and 19 of your friends have decided to form an internet marketing consulting firm. The group needs to choose 3 officers, a CEO, an operating manager, and a treasurer. In how many ways can those offices be filled? Okay, so how are these 2 questions different? So this first question, all it says is, you know, they want to know the different ways that they can schedule, and it's just 6 people, no big deal. But this question says that we have a number of things, okay, in this case it's people, right? There's 19 people and me, so that's a total of 20. Does everybody understand that? Okay, and taken so many at a time, okay, at a time. And in this case, it was 3 because they wanted 3 offices. They wanted the CEO, the operating manager, and the treasurer. So this is the time when you have to use the formula. Okay, this would be the time when you use the formula. So it would look like this. It's a permutation, and we have 20 total, taken 3 at a time. Okay, so when I set it up, it would be 20 factorial, and Tiffany W, you would not want to have to, you know, think about all that, although I'm going to show you kind of a shortcut. And then at the bottom, you take the difference between them. Okay, so 20 taken 3 at a time. So if I wrote this out kind of expanded, okay, I've got 20 factorial, which means 20 times 19 times 18 times 17 times 16 times 15 times 14, and so on. So if I break this down, because I know 20 minus 3 is 17, so my denominator is 17 factorial, okay? So if I break this numerator down, and I break it down into 20 times 19 times 18 times 17 factorial, I did that. I stopped right there because my denominator is 17 factorial. Okay, so that's why I stopped there. I mean, I could have kept going on. 17 times 16 times 15 times 14 times 13 times, see what I'm saying? So I could have gone all the way down, but I didn't. I'm going to stop right there. And I can now say this 17 factorial cancels with that 17 factorial right here. And so all I'm left with is 20 times 19 times 18. So, I mean, I guess, Tiffany, you could do it without the calculator. You could. Or you could punch it into the calculator, either way. So the answer would be 6,840. So if I had 20 people in the group and we had 3 offices, how many different ways could that happen? 6,840 different ways. Okay, so what do you need to remember on when do I just use the factorial and when do I use the formula? You use the formula when you have a number of things, okay, taken so many at a time. A number of things taken so many at a time. On this one, this one's really just a straight up count. You're just counting how many ways, how many different ways. So you don't have to worry about taking so many at a time. Okay, anything else? Okay, the test. Yes. Let me go back and look. Okay, so you're talking about test number 2. Test number 2 covers Mini-Mod 4 and Mini-Mod 5. Okay, so Mini-Mod 4 is 3.1 and half of 3.2. And Mini-Mod 5 is the second half of 3.2 and 3.3. Yes. So it covers 3 sections, 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. Hey, for those of you that did not go and take your test yet, make sure y'all ask for the formula chart. And also the girl or the lady, the director of the testing center, she asked me to send out an email to my class and ask everyone not to take the test on Saturdays unless it's a situation where you work and that is the only day you can go and take the test. For this test, the deadline's Friday, but for our next test, test number 3, I think I set it for a Saturday, and she said that they are overwhelmed on Saturdays. They cannot handle any more people, and that last Saturday there was a 2-hour wait. Any questions? Linear functions? Okay, are you wanting to graph them? So you're talking about from 3.2, right? That first example that I did, that was a linear function. Is there any other linear function? I mean, there's lots of different things in there. Is there something specific that you're having trouble with? Are you having trouble with the graphing? Because I can help you with some graphing. You have to be able to graph using intercepts. Sometimes my pen doesn't like me. Hang on. Let me try all over. Start this again. It doesn't like that T. Okay, so if you want to graph using intercepts, you're equation, more likely than not, is going to be in what we call standard form. That's ax plus by equals c, not 0, c. Okay, so it could be something like this: 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. That's a typical equation in standard form. So your intercepts, that is your points x, 0, and 0y. Okay, those are your intercepts. So that means if you want to find the x, you put in a 0 for y. Okay, and if you want to find the y, then you want to put in a 0 for the x, and that'll give you 2 points. So if I'm going to look for the x, that means I put a 0 in for y. So that would be 3x minus 4 times 0 is equal to 12. So 3x is equal to 12, because that's just going to 0 out. Divide by 3. So x is equal to 4. So that's my x-intercept. So that's the point 4, 0. And then you would do the same for your y-intercept. So you would get 3 times 0 minus 4y is equal to 12. That's just going to 0 out. So you get negative 4y is equal to 12. Divide by negative 4. And so y is equal to negative 3. That's your y-intercept. So that's going to be the point 0, negative 3. So then from there, all you have to do is plot those 2 points on your graph. So 4, 0 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And 0, negative 3, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 is going to be right here. And so then I would draw the line. Well, that didn't work. I would draw the line. Too bad I can't just make that invisible right there. That would go over, let's see, 1, 2, 3, it was right here. Okay, draw the line that goes through those 2 points, and that would be the line. Okay, so I found this is the x-intercept, because I see the x right there, 4, 0, and this is the y-intercept, 0, negative 3. So that's one way you have to be able to graph. A couple things you need to remember though. It has to be in standard form. This is going to be the easiest way to do it. I mean, it doesn't, let me take that back. It doesn't necessarily have to be in standard form, but most of the ones that you guys are going to see on your test will be in standard form. Okay, so that's using intercepts. Now, if I wanted to show you, let me show you with y equals mx plus b. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so the other way to graph is when you have slope-intercept. So if you have y equals mx plus b, to me this is the fastest way to graph. Right here, this is your slope. It's your rise and your run. So rise over the run. And then over here, this is your y-intercept. Okay, this is on the y-axis. That's where you begin. Think of B as begin. That's where you start. Okay, so if I have the equation y equals negative 2x plus 4, then I know where I begin. I begin right here at 4, so I go over to the y-axis at 4, and that's where I start. So let's see if I can get that to work. Oops. So here's my x-axis, here's my y-axis. So I go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Okay, so there's 4 on the y-axis. Now, right here, this is your slope, -2. Your slope needs a rise and a run, so it's a fraction. So this would be -2 over 1. This has to go down 2 and right 1. So from that beginning point, I go down 2, 1, 2, and right 1, and so there is my second point. It does not like that. There is my second point on the graph. And so then I would, man, that's really squiggly. Draw the line that goes through those 2 points. So I start at the beginning on the y-axis, and then I use the rise and the run to find another point. So you need to know how to do that. You use the rise and the run, that formula, anytime your equation is y equals. If your equation is y equals, that's what you do, okay? So if it's y equals, you always look for the m and you always look for the b, because that's what's going to help you graph. And then the other one, it's going to tell you. It's going to say you have to use intercepts. So if it says that you have to use intercepts, then you're doing the points, you're looking for the x, and you're looking for the y. I mean, you don't have a choice on those. Oh yeah, the functions, those are pretty easy. If you have a function like f at x is equal to 2x squared plus 3x minus 1, and then they tell you to find f at 1, all that means is to plug it in. It's just a substitution thing. This right here is x, so you put it here and here and there. You just put the x in. So that would be f at 1 is equal to 2 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 minus 1, which is 2 times 1 plus 3 minus 1, which is 2 plus 3 minus 1, which is 5 minus 1, which is 4. So f at 1 is 4. What this means is that x, this is x, and y, it means that x is 1 and y is 4. Okay, it's a point. Okay, bye, Brandon. Okay, where are you trying to find slope from, Derek? Like slope using the slope formula or identifying slope in an equation? Okay, so if you're looking for, let's see, I'm just kind of flipping through this book I have to pull some problems. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so you can be given 2 points. Okay, so I'll just say finding slope. Okay, so if you're finding slope, you can be looking for slope with 2 points, and I'll show you one of those, or from an equation. Okay, so there are 2 ways to find slope. If it's 2 points, you're using the slope formula. That's your m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The sub points just mean the y from point 2, the y from point 1. That's all these little things mean. That means like point 2 and point 1. Okay? So if I have 2 points, like let's say I have 2, 6 is my first point, and 3, 5 is my second point. My first step is to decide who's point 1 and who's point 2. And it doesn't matter. You can pick either one. So in this case, I'll call this point 1. And I'll call this one point 2. So when I plug them in, I have to take the y from point 2, so I have to go to point 2. So that's 5 minus the y from point 1, which is 6, over the x from point 2, which is 3, minus the x from point 1. So 5 minus 6 is negative 1, and 3 minus 2 is 1, and when I simplify, I get negative 1. So the slope of the line that goes through those would be negative 1. So that's one way to find slope, okay? The other way to find slope is from an equation. Well, if your equation is in y equals form, that means if the y is by himself, the slope's easy to find because the slope is the coefficient of the x. So we could do a ton of those. I mean, like if you have y equals 3x plus 1 is 3. If you have y equals negative 2/3 x minus 7, the slope is negative 2/3. If you have y equals 6 plus 1/4 x, the slope is 1/4. Okay, so it's just always the coefficient of the x. Always the coefficient of the x. So see, here's coefficient of the x, here's slope. Here's coefficient of the x, here's slope. Here's coefficient of the x, here's slope. Okay? Now, if the equation isn't quite so pretty, let's say the equation is 2x plus y is equal to 6. That one's not in an easy form because the y is not by himself. Then what you have to do is get the y by himself. So I'm going to have to subtract 2x from both sides. Those cancel. So I get y equals 6 minus 2x. So now it's in the good form. And so I get the coefficient of the x, and that becomes the slope. So you can find slope from points, or you can find slope from an equation. One thing y'all need to remember too, when they're talking about the equations, if they use f at x f at x is the same thing as y. So if it says f at x equals 4x minus 8 or y equals 4x minus 8, that's the same equation. I mean, the slope's still right there, 4. You're welcome. Okay, anything else? Did you go through Canvas or through the TJC? Okay, I'll look at it. Okay, we need to wrap it up. Does anybody have any more questions before we close for tonight? I think that I got this to record correctly. I'm crossing my fingers. If I did, then you guys can go back and watch the whole thing. Because we started a little bit before 9 and we've been talking for about an hour, so it's gonna be long, but I think it'll sort of be like a YouTube video where you can drag it, you know, you don't have to watch the whole thing. But I think the last few times I tried to record, well, every time I've tried to record and I can't find the recordings, I think I did not have a setting so that I could record. So I think it's right this time. I'm crossing my fingers because the tech person at school, she's like, I don't understand why you can't find it. So hopefully it's there and all this screen stuff will be on it and y'all can go and look for it after we shut the session off. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I guess I will talk to you guys later. Don't forget test is tomorrow, deadline. Make sure you've taken it. Make sure you keep up with your quizzes. Quizzes, you get 2 shots at it. Try not to take tests on Saturdays. Testing center says it's too hard. Or if you do take a test on Saturday, go first thing in the morning, because she said everybody waits until 4 o'clock and then they can't take it because there's a 2-hour wait. So make sure you get your business taken care of. Okay, I will see you guys next time.